I request next Dr. Sudhir, TOSA Secretary, to come over the dais. I request Dr. Sri, please come over the dais for lighting of the lamp. I request the organizing president to give a small brief of Professor Rangareddy, late Professor Rangareddy. This is the CME dedicated to him. I request Dr. Hanuman to give his introduction.
Good morning, everybody. I am honored to read the great late Dr. Mittu Rangareddy. Today we are going to conduct a CME on the name of Dr. Mittu Rangareddy CME. Now I am reading out the brief biodata of Dr. Rangareddy. Dr. Mittu Rangareddy, born in a simple agricultural family, has all his college and medical education through scholarships. He completed his high school examination at Balaram High School of Hyderabad and pre-university course at Nizam College, Hyderabad, and Ferguson College, Pune. He had brilliant career and was the best outgoing student in his medical training at Osmania Medical College, Hyderabad. He won the Drake Boken Medal in 1942, as well as attaining the rare honor of being a triple gold medalist in anatomy, obstetrics, and surgery. He joined the Army Medical Service in 1942 and served during the Second World War on the Eastern Front in India. He left the Army in 1946 and was selected as candidate for training in the UK as part of post-war reconstruction program of Nizam of Hyderabad. He completed MCH from Liverpool in 1950 and his FRCS in 1951. He was an outstanding trainee at Royal National Orthopedic Hospital, serving as SHO and Registrar. He returned to India in 1954. He was one of the 15 founder members of the Association of Surgeons of India to start the Indian Orthopedic Association on 30th December 1954. He worked as orthopedic surgeon at Osmania General Hospital and made Professor of Orthopedic in 1956. He was the first in Hyderabad to perform anterior spinal fusion for tuberculosis of the spine. He conceived and planned the Nizam's Orthopedic Hospital, a 150-bed hospital dedicated to cold orthopedic surgery, personally supervising all aspects of its construction. He was appointed as Chief Orthopedic Surgeon and Superintendent in 1965 and served in his capacity until 1976. He was President of Indian Orthopedic Association in 1976. He was appointed as Honorary Surgeon to Indian Armed Forces, a distinctive honor he held for the many years. He was President of AP Chapter of IOA in 1973 and president of IOA in 1976. He was founder chairman of Twin Cities Orthopedic Association at Hyderabad. He was a senior fellow of BOA and emeritus fellow of CCOT. He maintained strict discipline and excellent patient care. He was renowned for his sense of humor and for his playful teasing, and is remembered with intense affection by colleagues, patients, and students alike. He retired in 1976 and continued active orthopedic practice until 1986, when he unfortunately developed paraplegia following spinal surgery at Bangalore by visiting surgeon from Edinburgh. He died on 20th February 2002 after a sudden cardiac arrest.
Now I declare this Mr. Rangareddy CME is open. And I request Dr. GVS Murthy to session the chair, and I request Dr. M.V. Reddy to chair this session.
So, this session is on mostly in the lower limb, floating complex ankle injuries, floating knee injuries, floating hip, all complex pelvic fractures and acetabular fractures. We have 5 lectures in this. I think we'll have a short discussion at the end. Already we are behind the schedule. So I request the speakers to stick on to time. Now may I request Dr. He's Kirit Patel, sir. You have kept a small name. Kiran Patel, sir.
I'm on the stage, sir. Good morning. To invite me. Speaking on pylon fracture, rather complex ankle injury, is a too big topic to speak on. So I am starting with pylon fracture. So I have no financial relationship with commercial or any healthcare product. And pylon, as we know how we define, the talus act as a hammer and tibia plafond is crushed. And the main level is 3 centimeter proximal. So it is a 2-level fracture. The pylon term Dastot 1911, Bonin termed it as a plafond, means ceiling. It is a decorated roof. So basically tibial pylon is a soft tissue injury rather, and fracture is a coincident. And as its type does not affect the outcome, only soft tissue injury affect the outcomes. So these are the counterpoint, span and scan, how to wait, at what length and time you have to do, reconstruct how and reattach joint to diaphysis. So this is the mechanism of injury. Energy, forces and position of the foot makes the fragment displacement. And this is very high energy injury. And I will term, or rather Wikipedia term it as an implosion, that is violently inward. It is not explosive from outer to inner. So this is a soft tissue spread, implosive fracture. And as I told, that energy is liberated from ankle, that is talus, and 3 centimeter proximal to the plafond. So these are the mode of injury: central loading, eccentric loading. And the basic pattern in valgus, we have to know, because we can't do MIPO or ligamentotaxis in this type of things. And there is always a compression side and there is an apex on the compression side. Fibula plus minus doesn't matter. And median column is a distraction. This is varus pattern. Varus pattern, you have an apex on the medial side and you can do it MIPO. So you have to definitely plan injury pattern as a central loading also. Here ligamentotaxis works or doesn't work, but Ilizarov works in axial pattern of pylon fracture only. So it depends on the position of the foot on primary loading. So these are the classification. It is not better not to go into a detail, but it does not work except Topless classification on city base. So these are Rudy Grover. This is AOOTA. It is also useless. This is soft cut. This is something usual, that is partial and complete. There is a epiphysio, metaphysio, and metaphysio, diaphysio discontinuity that will work or help in the treatment. This is a medial compression, lateral compression, axial compression. And what I am going to talk on this 4-3 AC. So, as I told, it does not show mechanism, it does not show dislocation, it does not show fibula fracture. In practice, doesn't give us really all the necessary needed information because the real truth of injury is soft tissue. So fracture is static, it happens. It is easy assess, it is easy quantified. But soft tissue, it is a dynamic, incremental, accumulative, and difficult to assess. You don't know how it has been damaged. So it is a soft tissue care has the highest priority. So what are the goals? I will say it is a soft tissue injury complications, union and stability, and restore function. So span, scan, plan, that is common consensus. And from scan, you have to go through a corridor window for approach, how to approach, which approach, how to do reduction, how to retain the implant. And then another plan is check CT, whether you have done it proper or not. And then you can redo it. So it is a stage protocol in pylon. A stage protocol initially in previous literature it was 10 to 28 days, but now it differs. Fixed fibula, that is a controversial, and plating fibula is also controversial. So it is a stage protocol. Soft tissue improves, partial healing, and then you can proceed for definitive ORIF on a fertile ground. So first stage is distractions, and X-fix is a working horse. But putting X-fix is not only thing. You have to think about pin placement because you are not, that is, X-fix is not a definitive. It should not interference with CT. It should be away from your approach. It should be simple. And fixation of fibula should be done if you are a primary surgeon. Don't fix fibula if you are not a primary surgeon. So external fixation gives you option for MIPO and ORIF if it is a distraction CT scan. So first stage surgery, restore length, axis, rotation across the joint. And as I say, X-fix should have a talar pin and calcaneal pin because it will help you in reduction during peroperative. So best way is do not fix fibula, and when placing the X-fix, unless you are the treating surgeon, fix minimally by intramedullary close reduction fibula. So it is a difference between experience and beginner. We have failed so many times and then we have concluded this type of treatment. So beware, red is red, blisters, definitive care timing, skin wrinkle, it is a known thing. And this is a classification. After spanning, you come to scanning, and scanning top list classification, there are 6 fragments. So they are divided into sagittal group and coronal group. Sagittal group usually leads to varus alignment. And coronal group. And you have to, this is the basic fragment of the pylon CT scan. Why? 87%, 84%, 89% of the fracture group included in this. And the main comminution is at the anterior lateral. So we have anterior lateral fragment is the key fragment. And you have to draw the pylon map. On basis of the pylon map, you have to draw the anatomy, fracture lines, approach, die punch. And plate span also. As I say, there are 2 level fracture. Pylon fracture is a segmental fracture. So CT scan 3D, and which cat to be bailed first, that you have to decide. So depending on soft tissue injury, injury mechanism and key fragment is a key to your definitive treatment. And Tornetta has published Tornetta angle for approach CT corridor. If it is more than 90, then you have to go from medial side. If you less than 90, you have to go from lateral side. And this is the approach CT corridor basis on the fracture line. And you have to keep in mind this angiosomal approach also. So on basis of fracture fragment, anterior lateral approach, posterior lateral approach, anterior medial approach, posterior medial approach, you have to see these fragments. where you are able to fix the base. So these are the approach. I am not going into detail. And one thing I suggest that you should sketch before cut. So this sketch should be made on the paper napkin notes or whatever it is. And the first approach I will go always, or literature suggests, is posterior, because it is intact, it is covered by muscle, and it does not lead to skin avascularity. So key fragment is posterior first, if it is damaged, and it facilitates reduction of the distal fibula into the fibular notch, as we saw that fracture line passes through the incisura. So general articular reduction strategy, posterior to anterior, proximal to distal. This is against literature. Literature suggests that if you go from intra-articular to proximal, but it will be easy if you go from proximal to distal, because you find the apex and strong cortical bone, and then from lateral to medial. So biomechanical placement of the plate is also, you should plate on the compression side, not on the tension bend side. As I told, this is apical fixation. You can do MIPO also on medial side. And these are the reduction parameter. After reducing, you have to check the reduction before placing a plate. So these are the slides of my equations. Close reduction, then open, putting a plate. Stabilize additional column. This is a columnar fixation, is a new concept. And soft tissue also, no touch should be done. And the mite, that 7 centimeter bridge should be there. It has now limited to 5 to 6 centimeter. You can go for 5 to 6 centimeter space. And suture technique is Algarova-Donati. So fibula, as I say, it is a controversial. Consider temporary intramedullary only. It will help to restore length when you are doing X-fix. Die punch fragment, everybody knows how to open book and this. And this is my case, 25-year cricketer, bowling injury. This video is not working. I usually sketch on bone model. And this is my fixation. Somewhat MIPO, somewhat open. Fibula plating is open. Medial plating is MIPO. And anterior lateral fragment, posterior fragment. So first I go through from posterior to medial and medial to lateral. So this is a skin incision. This is another case. Another case, this is oblique view. Always take oblique. Don't trust epilateral. As such, CT scan is the most favorable investigation. So this is epilateral. Fall from first floor, and this is my span. I usually, this X-fix I have, it is a radiolucent. It has got talar and calcaneum pin. You can distract from the proximal, and you can rotate also talar pin and calcaneum pin. So these are the talar and calcaneum pin. So as a pylon fracture treatment, you should know how to put a calcaneum talar pin. This is distraction scan. This is talar pin. This is post-operative X-ray. Here I have used posteriorly contralateral anterior lateral tibial plate. And you have to look at the span of the plate also. And always check CT. Here video is not working. Now some newer plates are there, so you can better manage, but anterior lateral plate is not holding Thiel-Chapout plate, Thiel-Chapout fragment. So there are some syntheses introduced. It is a moldable, it is a fixable, it is anywhere you can bend it. This is newer design is plate. This is spike plate, spider plate. And this is orthofix, radiolucent external fixator. These are the fixator cases. And as a pylon, inadequate diagnostic is the mainstay of complication, wrong treatment modality, surgical error, deep infection, loss of reduction. and don't crowd the fixation, and don't resist to use hybrid fixation, X-fix along with internal fixation, and utmost respect to soft tissue, skin bridges, fibular fixation controversial, reduce from back to front, apex to base, that is from apical, talus, Walkman fragment as a template, fill bone gaps, fracture spanning plate. It should be all principles, antiglide, tension, buttress, compression, and these are the first, skin is the first, top 5 I will say. Make the spanning fixator X your friend, proper length and alignment. In summary, achieve proper length, resist the temptation to make the incision in a towering inferno, and no biased by synthase or anything. Acute fibular plating is not necessary to maintain length, because in pylon fracture, fibular fracture is higher level and it is oblique, which can be stabilized by intramedullary. And weight to weight, rather energy should be absorbed, and otherwise soft tissue will kill you, and no, if you rush, you have to rescue. So, and biomechanical pillar, you have to fix every columns. As you seen in my cases, I have used more than 2 to 3 plates. And happy hours, sometimes we are tempted to do this, but it is a compromise, it is a crying later. And this size implant does not fit matter, as I use contralateral anterolateral plate on posterior side, and MIPO especially at meta if possible. So these are the top 5. Make the spanning external fixator, resist temptation, wait, stabilize column, and be flexible. Don't fix to the implant. So indication of Elizarov, I am not going into detail, but open fractures, bone loss fractures, and late presentation are the 3 main indication. And no place anywhere or any more for conventional plating except antiglide in pylon. It is precarious and not angle stable. Pylon fracture surgery is not for beginners and not for the middle of the night. Not the length of the approach. You put longitudinal approach in a long way, doesn't matter. Only retraction and traction and stripping matters. And soft tissue critical care. So even for check scan, be ready for redo. So kick this immediate ORIF, conventional implant, skin bridges, fibula plating, inadequate diagnostic, implant, and then you will have pylon to pie. So it will be a black hole for orthopedic surgeons. And these are I indebted my 2 institutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. May I request Dr. M.S. Gaud to talk on floating knee. How to manage,
I request.
so that will be in time. Some time is left for discussion. Dr. Gaud.
My talk is on floating knee injury and its management. I'll just give a comprehensive information about the floating knee, stressing upon more on the treatment. When the knee joint is separated from the above and below with a fracture of the diaphysis of the femur and tibia, this is called a floating knee. First, the word coined by the Blake and McBride in 1975. The definition is extended onto the metaphyseal and diaphyseal injuries. Initially, he said it is only a diaphyseal injury with separation of the knee joint below and above. Gradually, he said floating knee is a flail knee resulting from fractures of the shafts or adjacent metaphysis of the femur, ipsilateral tibia. The definition he has included that it's a combination of the diaphyseal, metaphyseal or intra-articular fractures. In the earlier years, people used to adapt to a conservative management, but that used to give rise to a lot of complications like malunion, non-union, angular deformity. In the recent past, maybe 1 decade or 1.5 decade, the treatment modality has improved with intramedullary nailing, that's a TENS.
Sir, we have to be brief, sir.
Conservative management, adults, it's given up. Surgical management is the order of the day. You have to be very aggressive in treating and stabilizing the fracture. At present, the use of intramedullary nails on either side of the knee is the best modality for the fracture management and outcome. Antegrade nailing is usually performed when nails are applied. Plating for the distal and proximal tibia when there is an intra-articular or metaphyseal fracture. If intramedullary nailing is not possible, spanning external fixator can be applied temporarily to stabilize the patient. This is again a table showing what type of fracture, how to fix. Antegrade nailing is the ideal. The technique of antegrade nailing does have two drawbacks. That is, you have to keep the patient in different positions, first for femur, then for the tibia. It requires 2 incisions, prolonged anesthesia, surgical time. To overcome these concerns, retrograde nailing of the femur with antegrade nailing of the tibia has been proposed. This is ideal for the fracture is mid shaft and lower for the femur.
Sir, Dr. Gaud, sir, if possible, conclude little fast.
Time is up.
Time is already 11 minutes.
Okay. So these are the diagrams. Just how to go for the lateral incision, antegrade nail, retrograde nailing. Retrograde nailing is ideal. We can also treat the fracture patella. Femur should be fixed first because it gives a flail knee treated conservatively initially with the external fixator, then definitively after later date with the intramedullary nailing. Ligamentous injuries are to be assessed and treated. Generally, ligamentous injuries are treated after the fracture. Femur and tibia are treated with early intramedullary fixation, have the best outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gaud.
To be here to talk about floating hip as an injury after talking about ankle and after talking about the knee joint. When we talk about floating hip, we are looking a situation which has got a fracture of the acetabular pelvis along with the fracture in the thigh, that's in the femur, it could be. And it is very well perceived that it is a result of a high velocity trauma. If you look at the literature, we do have various perspective of a patient getting an acetabulum fracture along with multiple injuries and a polytrauma like of a situation. These are the two situations which we do encounter. Why we are talking about these two different situations is because this affects our management of these injuries. Now we do understand that in the day one, we do not want to create a second hit after such a polytraumatic situation. And then the window opportunity comes on 4th, 5th day when SIRS and CRS both are settling down to a level and subsequently the patient immunologically goes down. So we need to define our management according to this kind of a situation. So when we say a floating hip, we are looking where the mortality is also increasing. That's a very important perspective in this kind of a situation, 50 to 77%. And now we look how the second surgery will be happening after one surgery. If you look in this kind of a situation, the delay could be like we are operating upon the isolated fracture on an average on 6th day, multiple injuries on the 6th day, but when polytrauma it goes on an average to a 7th day. So, but mostly 5th day, 6th day, 7th day are these managed. When we look at the literature, we do get case reports of these floating hips. There are very few publications as a group of cases when we are looking at it. The combination could be pelvis or acetabulum in association with a femur fracture. There are two classifications. One is Lieberkühn classifications, one is Mueller. One takes into account femur and acetabulum. Another combines femur acetabulum and pelvis, and both of them together. So they are basically saying the similar depending upon two. First we talk about a pelvic fracture along with a femur fracture. Now we have to appreciate it is a pelvic injury, so our all attention goes to a polytrauma kind of a management. We have to look for, it is expected there will be many associated injuries, we do look for associated injuries also, and whatever surgery at that stage will be a damage control surgery due to the polytrauma. And when we look for the kind of an injuries, they are lateral compression injuries or type B pelvis injuries which we encounter in this kind of a situation. And an example is this girl, 21 years, she got both femur fractured along with the pelvic injury, the lateral compression kind of a fracture. We had a resuscitation, her HB has come down to 5, we did give 8 blood transfusion, 3 FFP, 2 platelets subsequently. Second day, as she settled, we managed her both femur joints, and on the 6th day we stabilized her part of the pelvis. So that is the kind of the management we went in. 6 months later she was able to sit, squat, comfortable on that ground. Another patient, now an APC kind of injury. You see, first we stabilized the femur because the patient has settled down. Now it was not a polytrauma, the patient was not unstable. The patient has settled now, we focused upon femur as a one primary event. Once the femur was settled down, then subsequently we stabilized the APC part of the pelvis. Another case, again femur stabilized first, and after 2 or 3 days we stabilized the pelvis as such. Vertical shear kind of an injury. Now you see the vertical shear pattern, you can see from the x-rays, from the CT scan as such, along with the fracture of the femur. So we went on to stabilize the femur. You can see in the image intensifier, you femur already stabilized. Then we go for the traction and we stabilize the pelvis part with the posterior fixation, and then we come to the anterior fixation to have the patient ambulatory. In pediatric patients, we definitely avoid lot of interventions. We stay with the fixators for the pelvis also as well as for the femur also, and we are able to get a reasonably good outcome in this kind of a scenario. So question is, if the patient is unstable, which is a possibility in a pelvic fracture, especially when it is combined with the femur, our aim is stabilizing the patient, and at that stage primary intervention has to be stabilizing the pelvis and stabilizing the femur, maybe with the X-fix as such. And when he becomes settled, then definitely the next of the surgery is to go. Now talking about acetabulum. With acetabulum, we are not looking that kind of a mortality or instability as we are looking with the pelvis. So we analyze the injury. If it is a posterior injury, meaning by a dislocation associated with acetabulum fracture, this definitely requires its own priority. Dislocation needs to be reduced. So again we talk about hip dislocation reduction. If it is reduced, our priority goes to the femur, and then we stabilize the femur in this kind of a situation. And whenever there is a posterior injury, we are definitely looking for knee injuries also in this kind of a situation. And then we stabilize many of time with the same surgery. We are operating upon the dislocation, stabilizing the acetabulum, and the same go from the same approach. We can stabilize the femur and can have a good outcome. So it can very well be an antegrade nailing, the same incision, allowing us both the option of stabilizing the acetabulum and subsequently down to the greater trochanter to stabilize the femur also. Another case. But the problem here could be that we might develop heterotopic ossification because hip dislocation combined with our intervention and combined with our intervention of putting a nail, we might get little higher chances of HTO as this patient got it over. But if the fracture is of so-called central type, these days we do not define it out, but for the gross understanding, anterior fracture where we are not looking for a dislocation now. So our priority is a relative reduction and probably going for the femur as a priority in management. You can see in this case, we did reduction, went for the femur as a priority, stabilized the pelvis, the femur with the plate, and then we plan for the acetabulum. Again another case, we got this reduction of the femur, stabilized the femur first, and subsequently you can see the surgery then subsequently went for the acetabulum fixation by putting 2 screws into the anterior as a transverse fracture, a screw into the anterior column and screw into the posterior column through our iliofemoral approach as such. So that is the kind of the definitions we can make. Another situation, the patient had at some state been operated upon for this thing. He developed a fat embolism syndrome, and after a few days we operated for his acetabulum when he settled down. Another situation, same kind of a situation, did these also. Here is a patient, 26 years male, with a significant trauma anteriorly, significant trauma posteriorly, and then we went for fixation of the femur first with the retrograde nail, and then went, you can see lot of option is putting a plate. We have got in the acetabulum also. So our priority hatchet. So you can plan at probably at the same stage. Like with this case again, acetabulum fracture and the trochanteric fracture. So you need to do first this part of it, so you can stabilize the acetabulum, you can stabilize the femur with the PFN kind of a fixation. Another situation, as well as the femur head fragment which we have taken it out. And this injury can further be complicated by a knee injury also. So a floating knee as well as a floating hip also becomes another situation, and we reduce at every level. And then this is what we again published about, a kind of a combination of a floating hip and a floating knee on that side of facing. Non-reconstructible.
Right, one.
That's only the general kind of a condition.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.